Good afternoon, Jeppe, Terry, Nick, and Warwick. Collectively, as the Jeppe first four and second four in 1963, won SA champs in both of those events. Moving on to 1964, Jeppe was the club captain, and together with Nick, Terry, and Warwick, with the crew to again win SA champs in the first fours. It's worth mentioning that in those days there were no school eights, so the first and second fours were the premier or premium event of the day. So congratulations for 1963 and 1964 wins. And what's even more interesting is the fact that as recently as 2017, this winning crew again had the pleasure of rowing together at Wemapan, and they have the photos to prove it. So thanks guys for taking the time to talk to us. The questions today for each of these oarsmen is, from your time as a Jeppe oarsman, can you give us one memory that stands out above all, and how, and the second part of that question is, how has rowing impacted the rest of your life? If I could start with, let's start with Nick. Nick, could we start with you just in responding to those questions?
Okay, so my one memory that really kind of sticks out or stands out for me is we were at the Buffalo Regatta in East London. And the day of the regatta, there was this howling gale. And the waves were breaking into all the boats. And at the finish, we were the only boat that was still afloat and had not sunk, although the boat was really full of water. So that is my abiding memory, or the most profound memory I have in terms of our rowing experiences. Then to move on in terms of life's lessons or lesson, I'm going to tell you, I think there are two. You can't limit me to one.
That's fair enough.
The first life lesson was we trained so diligently that it was insane. We used to ride our bikes to school, then ride from school to Wema, and then ride from Wema back home at night. Can you imagine doing that today? It's just impossible. We would run up and down those mine dumps until we were exhausted. We would row our races and end the races with black spots popping into your eyes. And for me, the lesson there was, without real hard work, nothing comes easily. But with real hard work, the rewards are there. And the second lesson for me, rowing is not an individual sport. It's one of those team sports. And when it comes down to team sports, as it is in business or anything in life, you are only as good or as strong as your weakest link. So I wanted to share two lessons for me out of my rowing at school. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Nick. Jeppe, if I could go to you next.
There was a chap called Brian Goodall, who was eventually head boy. He encouraged all of us to join rowing. And I think like Nick, the two abiding memories are running up those mine dumps. Where the M2 is today, there was a beautiful soft sand mine dump, and it was part of the hard part was okay, but it was like being on the sea sand. It was really good fun. And the other thing I remember was our bicycles. We used to ride everywhere. In fact, I remember one instance where there was one chap, I think his name was Vernon Monk, who was above us, but some of the guys didn't really like him all that well in rowing. And so when he was out on the water, they took his bicycle apart and they put the handlebars on one rafter and they put the frame somewhere else and the wheels somewhere else. So when he came in, we said, Vern, we're about to go home. Get your bike, let's go. And he couldn't find his bicycle. It was all in bits and pieces. So we really had great fun. And those are the kind of memories, and Nick was so right. We used to cycle everywhere. In fact, it's made such an impression on Nick that he still cycles today. He hasn't forgotten. I think life lessons, there were so many, and Nick's quite right, you can't limit it. But one thing stands out for me very particularly, which was a real life lesson. Right at the end of our rowing, we were invited to dinner at our cox's house, Philip Bromley. And Philip's mother said to him, "Philip, play the piano for the boys." And we were all startled because we didn't even know he could play the piano. And he played such beautiful music. And it struck me then that because it was not the in thing for a guy who was playing a good sport to also be able to do something cultural like play the piano, he never ever let this out. And the life lesson for me there was that, you know, you've got to be who you are and not act the script that others write for you. And that was a real great lesson that I learned from rowing. But I could go on forever, but I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Jeppe. Terry, over to you.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you very much for setting this up. I won't go on forever. Jeppe's entitled to do that. I'll just be very brief. In any case, Nick has said most of what I wanted to say. With regard to the one memory, the one outstanding memory, it was exactly the one that he described to you. Except I don't think he mentioned that we went down by train. And for us as teenage boys, traveling on a train from Joburg down to East London was, I mean, these days it sounds quite kind of corny, but in those days it was a real adventure. We really, really enjoyed it. I think the reason that we stayed afloat was that Vic Robson, I think Vic was there, the teacher who was in charge of rowing, and Doc Tomlinson, who was our coach. They attached splashboards to the boat. And I think they were the only ones who had that kind of nous to realize that this is what was needed. And that's what kept us afloat. We had fish jumping right into the boat, which is another exciting thing for guys from the placid waters of Wemapan, you know, the little pool that we learnt our rowing on. And on the way back, if memory serves me right, and I don't know how we got this together, we cracked open a bottle of champagne on the train. Am I right about that?
I wouldn't know. I don't think so.
You talk about life lessons. Mine is more of an impact issue. The impact on my life, I think, for me has been lasting friendships, which stem from the camaraderie, which is forged in the kind of demanding conditions that people had to row in, the fitness training, the riding that was talked about, the running that was talked about, mountaineering, whatever you want to call it. Those kind of conditions, I believe, forge camaraderie. I talk about lasting friendships, and this is an example. The four of us are still effectively together, even though we might be geographically scattered. We're just the same good buddies that we ever were at school. 56 years later, I mean, it's fantastic. We might not see one another for several years and then get together and we just click. It's as if we've never been apart.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Warwick, over to you. If you could respond to the question.
Greg, I've tended to scramble these two questions together because I think it's in many ways, as you gather from the guys with the qualities and the memories, difficult to separate. The memories we could go forever. You know, I've made a few notes. I think that winning races are, of course, a great and special experience. But perhaps more than so than this is the process required before you get to that finishing line. I mean, my most significant memories of the trip rather than the destination. I thought back to the qualities that make rowing such a special sport. You know, the importance of good technique, physical fitness and strength, of a mental fitness, you know, the necessary concentration and self-discipline to actually participate in a crew sport. Yeah, obviously, not unlike Jeppe, who's done a lot of sculling subsequently. We're talking about crew boats. And, rowing provides an opportunity to develop all those qualities. And the next challenge, of course, is that, you may feel you're doing it on your own. But a rowing boat is not a place for an individualist. You've got to coordinate with those other guys. And it's quite a contrast, because you've actually got to be able to apply those things and apply them together for maximum effect. Yeah, here nothing is truer than that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And one of my special experiences is exactly on that sort of score. After hours, weeks, and months of training, the guys mentioned those bicycle rides out to Winnipeg. And it was crazy times. I mean, we were fortunate in having the ex-Olympic captain and coach, a guy called Jeppe Stein, coach us. And we used to go home, school used to finish at, I think it was 10 to 3, go home, have a bit of a bite of late lunch, get back on the bikes, we'd meet up, we'd ride out to Winnipeg together. There, Trevor was also coaching the top Winnipeg Rowing Club crews. And we'd part of the bikes change, warm up with them. We would row around the pan as many times as I did with them, get off the boat, or out of the boat. They'd get out of their boat and they'd either retire to their pub or get to their cars to go home. We go and change and we get back on the bikes and back we go to Kensington. So it was quite a time. And those wind-ups, Jeppe was right. The beautiful forwards. Brian was a specialist. The objective there was every 3 steps you took up, you slid back about 2. So you really had to work on it. So you certainly had to about dedication. Anyway, after this, what I want to just mention was that after hours, weeks, months of training, suddenly one day it all comes together, it comes right. And the feeling of a boat that's accelerating with each stroke, that's got the run on it between those strokes. And it becomes like a living thing, this thing is surging, it's moving under you. It's a very special experience. And I'll never forget that. The life lessons, yes, the commitment to an objective, thorough preparation, developing necessary resources, and recognizing those benefits of teamwork, as well as one's self-discipline, and above all, enjoying what you're doing. I think these are the kind of success factors that make the achievement of excellent results possible in all areas of one's life.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing those amazing memories and for giving us those very valuable life lessons which apply not only to you but certainly to everybody who's watching this. Jeppe and Terry, Nick and Warwick, thank you very much for all of you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing and thanks for that message. For everybody else out there, everyone who's listening, please do remember to go look at our website. That is www.jeppeboatsandblades.co.za. And until we next hook up and have a conversation, just keep pulling for gold. Thank you, guys, and thank you to everybody else out there.